Xbox showed up in a major way this past Sunday, with some people going as far as to say that it was the best game showcase that we've seen in years. But there's still one major thing that Xbox needs to address. What's up, y'all? I'm Ray, and this is my channel, Xbox Ready, where we talk Xbox stuff. And this past Sunday, the Xbox Bethesda showcase gave us fans plenty to talk about. But even though Xbox gave us a ton of stuff to look forward to over the next couple of years, they also failed to address the elephant in the room, the question that's been burning in everyone's minds over the past couple of months. I did a video just about my thoughts after the showcase. I did a video with Jimmy too to get his thoughts. So in today's video, we're not going to be talking about the stuff they showed off Sunday. We're going to be talking about the stuff that we didn't see. One of those things being an Xbox handheld. There has been a ton of rumors over the past few months regarding Microsoft's work on a new portable gaming console. It's being worked on by the Surface team. It's going to emulate PC games. It's going to have Windows on ARM type technology stuffed all in it, have a touch screen. It's going to come out in 2026. And a few days before the showcase, we were hearing rumors that Xbox was going to tease the existence of this thing. And I gotta admit, I fell for it. I saw that Extasis reporting through Exputer was like, yeah, there's going to be a shadow drop of a first-party title. There's going to be a handheld teaser. They're going to reveal the digital Series X, and Octopath Traveler 2 is coming to Game Pass. Well, he's 50-50. He was right about the digital Series X, and he was right about Octopath Traveler 2 coming to Game Pass. But the other stuff, the major stuff, that was a miss. Because the Xbox showcase came and went, and there was no handheld to be seen at all. In hindsight, that's probably smart, because it definitely would have stolen the thunder away from the digital Series X and the Galaxy Black console. But fans still have their hopes up, especially because Phil Spencer can't seem to help himself when talking about a portable Xbox console. A few months back, the Xbox CEO was caught liking tweets regarding a possible Xbox handheld. And then in an interview, he was like, yeah, I love handhelds. I would love a portable Xbox. Paraphrasing here, but that's pretty much the gist. And this past weekend, he was back at it again, fanning the flames of the handheld Xbox rumors when he did an interview with IGN, where he said, you know what, I think we should have a handheld too. He goes on to say, the future for us in hardware is pretty awesome. The work that the team is doing around different form factors and different ways to play, I'm incredibly excited about. Today was about the games, but we will have time to come out and talk more about the platform. When he was pressed about, oh, is this Xbox handheld going to be kind of like the PlayStation Portal, where it's like technically portable, but you got to stream the games in some way? And he specifically said, well, I like my Legion Go, I like my Ally, I think playing games locally is very important in regards to a handheld. There are a couple of big things kind of buried in this statement. Number one, it's getting harder and harder to deny that Xbox is working on some sort of portable gaming device. The language that he's using, my team is working with different form factors, different ways to play. I mean, how many other ways are there to play other than on a TV, on a handheld, on your computer, or on your phone? And the one avenue that Xbox doesn't have covered as a company out of the things that I just mentioned are a handheld, where you can locally play Xbox games. We can also assume from Phil's statement that he is pretty much guaranteeing the future of Xbox hardware. There was a lot of speculation, especially when Xbox decided to ship some of its games over to other platforms, if Xbox was going to leave hardware entirely. And even as Xbox leadership came out and were like, no, that's not the case, we're going to have consoles, that's going to be part of our business, people were still doubting them. And here we have the man himself saying, yeah, we're going to have a future in hardware. And it's sounding like it's not just going to be one device, it's going to be multiple. Now, I know Xbox fans and just fans of video games in general, they have a lot of questions regarding why Xbox would put out a handheld at this point. It's no secret that Xbox hardware isn't selling very well, and the handheld market specifically is suddenly very competitive. You got the ROG Ally, the Legion Go, the Steam Deck, the Nintendo Switch. So while I think the prospect of an Xbox handheld is cool, there is inherent risk baked into it. I think there's a place for the Xbox handheld, especially if they continue to go with a 2 SKU lineup like we've seen the past 2 generations. What I would really like to see is a traditional high-end console like we see with the Series X, and then that cheaper supplementary console would be the Xbox handheld. It would take in the slot of the Series S, especially if the rumors are true and you can dock it to your PC and monitor like a Steam Deck, like a Switch. Now, obviously, the handheld Xbox is going to be weaker than a traditional standalone console, but even if it was underpowered, cheaper, I feel like people would be a lot more forgiving if it was a handheld. You can take it with you on the go. I've talked about this in another video before, but it's really going to come down to what the software is like. No one likes Windows. No one wants it as their portable gaming OS. It's gonna have to be like an Xbox Windows hybrid. It'll have to feel like your Xbox console, but they have to know this at this point. But while I'm sure a lot of people want to hear about what's going on with the Xbox handheld, the real elephant in the room, especially for fans, is what games are going to PlayStation and which ones are staying exclusive? I was really hoping to walk away Sunday with some clarity regarding Xbox's multi-platform approach. I don't want to be that guy, like I'm excited for what Xbox has coming up for us. Gears E-Day, Avowed, we'll talk more about that later. Perfect Dark, State of Decay 3. But there is a lingering question of like, okay, which of these games are gonna eventually make their way over to PlayStation? And especially if you haven't bought an Xbox or invested in the platform in any way, you're probably sitting there thinking, should I buy a PS5 and just wait for those games to be ported over? I had come around to Xbox's multi-platform stuff, porting over games to PlayStation 5 and all that. I had kind of come around to it. I was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, especially because I have all platforms. And like, what do I care if you go and play Grounded on PlayStation 5 versus Xbox? But being at the showcase, interacting with fans, it reminded me how important and powerful exclusives can be. And sure, maybe it doesn't make the most business sense. You're limiting the money that you can make. But seeing the excitement, the energy of these fans who made the investment into the Xbox platform being rewarded, I was like, okay, if nothing else, for fan goodwill, exclusives are important and they have a place in the Xbox strategy going forward. Or do they? Because one of the most awesome and confusing things about Sunday's show was Doom: The Dark Ages. First of all, that trailer was awesome. And they're like, yeah, it's coming to Xbox, yeah, it's coming to Game Pass, but then we find out later that it's also coming to PlayStation 5. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's not like Master Chief is showing up on PlayStation 5 just yet, or Marcus Phoenix, but an Xbox exclusive Doom game, that was one of the things that I was most excited about when they made that Bethesda acquisition. And up until this point, most of the Bethesda stuff has, well, the stuff that's been in their control has been exclusively launched on Xbox and PC. So now it's like, okay, you're switching that up a little bit with Doom: The Dark Ages. What else are you going to switch up with? And we can't really get a straight answer. Phil Spencer says Doom is definitely one of those franchises that has a history of so many platforms. It's a franchise that I think everyone deserves to play. When I was in a meeting with Marty a couple of years ago, I asked Marty what he wanted to do, and he said he wanted to sell it on all platforms, simple as that. Once again, we are seeing language in here that can be applied to a bunch of other games out there. Indiana Jones, for example. Oh, it's an IP that many people have a history with, or they think about fondly because of the movies. People deserve to play that, so let's go ahead and make a PlayStation 5 version. There's been rumors surrounding that already. They've said that The Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be exclusive to Xbox, but The Elder Scrolls is another franchise that has a history of multi-platform releases. The back and forth is getting confusing, and fans deserve a straight answer. You can make the argument that, okay, established IP, established franchises like Doom, they're going to be multi-platform, whereas new IP under the Xbox stewardship, like Avowed, like Starfield, that's going to be exclusive. But looking at all of the games that they've already ported over, Sea of Thieves, Grounded, Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, those are all original Xbox IP. And these questions are not going to stop. No matter how awesome the game looks, there's always going to be the looming specter of, oh, is this eventually going to make its way over to PlayStation or Switch? And I really hope that they play it right, because again, the energy in that room where it was like, man, yes, I bought an Xbox and I'm going to play Gears E-Day and it's going to be awesome. That's something that they need to key into. They have a lot of attention on them after having a really awesome showcase, especially right after State of Play flopped. This whole thing that Phil has said in the past where it's like, well, it doesn't matter if you make good games because people are so tied up in their digital library, they're not going to want to jump ship. And that's something that I said I disagreed with it when he said it, and I'm doubling down on that now. If you deliver consistent, good gaming experiences that you can only have on your platform, whether it's through Game Pass, whether console or PC, people will come. And so I'm hoping that they play this whole exclusive thing right. Ideally, they would have multiplayer stuff, multi-platform, kind of like what we're seeing with Sony and Helldivers. The single-player stuff, that's exclusive. If nothing else, we just need clarity. I mean, my God, freaking Metaphor and Dragon Age Veilguard seem to be timed exclusive to Xbox, but for some reason, Doom: The Dark Ages, an Xbox-owned game now is gonna be multi-platform. There's been a lot of talk about, oh, well, if Microsoft had their way, then all Xbox games would be multi-platform, but the Xbox team is kind of fighting back. And with how they've been behaving, well, I'm kind of believing that. Because you got random exclusives, and then you got random multi-platform games, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason to it. The only other thing I can think of is that by doing this, by kind of playing it loosey-goosey with what is multi-platform and what is not, they are putting themselves in a position to make further acquisitions. And specifically, they're putting themselves in a position or setting themselves to not get any hassle from, I don't know, the American government. Because if they come in to try to say, oh, you're trying to be a monopoly, man, you're trying to monopolize the gaming industry, Xbox and Microsoft, they could be like, nah, man, not me. Look, we let the new Doom game be ported over to PlayStation, and all these other games too. We're cool, man, we're cool. Now, there's one more thing that wasn't discussed this past Sunday, and that's, well, apparently more games. Apparently, the showcase could have been way bigger. This is coming from Paris Lily, aka Vicious, who appeared on Reset Era and was like, yeah, I was going around talking to some Xbox people and they were all saying that they had a lot more to show. And that Gamescom is shaping up to be pretty big for Xbox as well. It's gonna act like almost like a secondary showcase. Now, I did hear some rumblings over the weekend that Xbox had a lot more in the clip than they were letting on. And I can confirm that there was some mention about Xbox being at Gamescom as well, and that it was going to be big for them. It's going to be so big, in fact, that they were trying to do a mini Gamescom out here in LA, and that a bunch of creators can cover it and talk about it without having to go all the way to Germany for Gamescom. And I absolutely believe that, for sure. We saw a lot of games this past Sunday, but there are plenty of more that we haven't heard anything about. Stuff like Blade, stuff like Everwild. I was really hoping to see Towerborn in some way this past Sunday. I was hoping that it would be shadow dropped, but I assume that it's going to be in whatever presentation that Xbox is putting together for Gamescom. From my understanding, they had a playable demo of this game last year on the show floor, and that's not even including other games like Contraband, Clockwork Revolution. They could have a couple of other really big announcements and teasers like for The Elder Scrolls 6 or Fallout 5, The Outer Worlds 2. It's really starting to feel like this future that we were promised at the beginning of this generation, where there was almost going to be too many games, like we wouldn't be able to keep up with all the first party output. It's finally coming to fruition, finally. And since we're taking the time to talk about what wasn't shown at the showcase, what they're not telling us, I can now officially tell you about my experience playing Age of Mythology Retold directly after the show ended. I want to give a big thanks to Team Xbox again for including me in this. Age of Mythology, it's like pure nostalgia bait for me, man. I loved this game as a kid, and I was forbidden to play any computer games on my family computer after I bricked our crappy little PC playing Diablo 2. It was probably that and LimeWire. But my friend had it, Age of Mythology 1 and 2, and I would go over to his house to play it all the time. For those of you who are not familiar, Age of Mythology is made by World's Edge. It is pretty much like Age of Empires. It's an RTS game, but the gimmick in this is that you take over a civilization that worships a specific pantheon of gods, whether they are Greek gods, Norse, Egyptian, and those gods give you specific powers in order to build your civilization and crush your enemies. The demo that I got to play was about 15 minutes. We were the Greeks. We had a bronzing power, which made all of our weapons bronze, and we also had a healing power. We also had the ability to call down Zeus's lightning, and then also an ability to summon a meteor shower. Our mission was to take our army and defeat the Titan Kronos, but they also had optional camps that you could destroy that were either Norse or Egyptian. First of all, the presentation started out, it was about like, I don't know, 8 PlayStations, not PlayStations, but PlayStations, a couple of PCs, and a couple of Series X dev kits. And seeing the dev team being so excited to bring this game over to console, that was awesome, because that would have been awesome when I was a kid. If there was an option to play Age of Mythology on the old school Xboxes, I would have done it. But of course, it was a different time, so I don't know. Do kids even play RTS games anymore, man? I don't know. I don't know if any kids are going to be playing Age of Mythology Retold, but I am excited that it's coming to consoles, and it seems like the dev team is too. And hey, I'm sure it's a lot easier because they've already laid the groundwork for doing the console version of Age of Empires. So I was making my way through. I had a couple of like hoplites, some minotaurs, some centaurs that were archers, and it was a very smooth experience. First of all, it was It looked so much better than the original games. The graphical updates that they've implemented are awesome. The only thing that didn't seem updated is the dialogue and the voice acting for this game. The game guide sounded very dated. They were like, "Congratulations, you did it. You defeated the Titan Kronos." Very monotone, very dry. Which was, yeah, that's how it was like back in the day, you know? So it was nostalgic in its own way, but I would have liked to seen that up. I also know that, you know, there's like placeholder dialogue, so maybe that played a factor into it too. But overall, it was an awesome experience. I can't wait to play this game when it comes out later this year. I don't think it's gonna sell gangbusters, it's not gonna break the internet or anything, but those original Age of Mythology games, well, they're super old. And the fact that we're getting Age of Mythology retold is a big win for game preservation, and it's yet another solid real-time strategy game that you can play on an Xbox console. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready, and we'll see you in the next video.